Hello and welcome. This video will review the information you need to complete activity 4-2. I highly recommend that you watch the video covering the chapter reading, chapter 4 videos, both part 1 and part 2. That video will review the information you need to complete questions 1 through 10 successfully. In those questions 1 through 10, you'll be using the Z distribution to compute a 95% confidence interval. For questions 11 through 20, you're going to be working with a T distribution. You're going to be working with a Z distribution for questions 1 through 10. And when you're working with a T distribution, something slightly changes when you are computing the 95% confidence interval. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. When you're working with the margin of error to compute the 95% confidence interval, you're going to be using the error term, which is right there. But you're also going to be using, again, the factor that expands the margin of error from the 68%, which is what you get if you just use the SEM, the 68% margin of error. What you want is a 95, so you need to multiply this times a factor that will increase that to the 95% confidence interval. Now, as you know, when you're working with the Z distribution, that factor is always 1.96 because the Z distribution is constant. It doesn't change its shape based on sample size. That's not true of the T distribution. The T distribution does change its shape based on sample size, so that means the factor that you need to use to compute this margin of error is going to vary based on sample size. So you'll need to look this value up in Appendix B. And you can find it. It's the same appendices that you've used in a previous activity. You need to look up this in Appendix B. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to make sure you use the two-tailed table. Appendix B, there's going to be two tables. You want to make sure you're using the two-tailed table. You're looking under the alpha 0.05, and you're going to look up in the row for the DF, which is n minus 1, the sample size minus 1. So I'll show you what I mean here. Here is the table in Appendix B. Notice I'm using the two-tailed probabilities table. Let's just say that our sample size was 35. We would try and find the DF of 35. Our sample size is 35. So we find 35, but our DF is n minus 1, so it's 34. And then you'd come over and you'd see that under the alpha 0.05 across from 34, the value is 2.0322. So that is the value that you'll need to multiply the SEM by in order to find the margin of error. I think that's all the information you'll need to complete activity 4.2. That is, if you understand the information that's in the video that reviews part 2 of the chapter reading.